wonder if I should wear my glasses for this. These are like new.
I like them.
Do you?
I was like, another glasses person.
I've got the I bought the Metas when I was getting ready to go to Europe because they were like, because I like the Ray-Ban frames.
Yeah, me too.
But also I was like, they'll decipher languages.
Wait, really? You did do that? But that's not what those are.
No, these are like
Just
Jacques-Marie Mays.
cool,
A friend of mine, another comedian, he was like, you should go get these glasses. There's a stop right here on St. Mark's. He'll hook you up. They're expensive. They're like the Rolex of glasses. And then I had already bought the Metas, which were expensive.
God, do you need a Meta?
I got them because I got them because I was like, I thought they were very helpful in Europe. Okay. Because literally you could say, like, somebody could say something in French and you could ask it, could you translate this?
But where is it giving you the answer?
In my ears.
Oh,
so there were like
fucking God,
speakers
I don't
here.
wanna hear about
It's
it.
creepy. It is creepy and it's going to give me a brain tumor probably. But, hopefully Meta will figure out a way to cure that.
Well, exactly. I think they don't care about people's human health, but I think I'm more concerned about the merging of the morphed human machine creature.
Oh, the AI?
Just the people that are going to be morphed with computers. Like, that is the beginning of the chip, is the beginning of the loss of who we are, which are analog primitive man.
Can I push back on that a little bit?
Yes.
Then we will get a RoboCop, and if you saw the Paul Verhoeven movie, it was great.
Yeah.
And he still had a soul.
I'm okay
towards
with
the end of that.
Soul. I feel like we will be overly informed by, and I think there's sacred geometry and engineering in all of this. It's not like I know it came from us. It's the people who are making it and controlling it that I don't like. So I would rather have autonomy. That's all. I don't like the people because I know that they're going to use it to their advantage.
You saying get in the mic a little closer?
So don't look at him?
No, you can hear, like, just
then I have to
little...
like turn it.
Is that good? Is she good now?
Okay. Blah blah.
Please tell me you just
Talking.
we got the AI RoboCop thing, because that's the perfect way to. I'm always like, how do you start this? And you're like, the world will come to an end because Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. No. We'll be fine.
Tech creeps.
We'll be fine.
No, it's more that I don't. I mean, we know that they all use it to their advantage at some point. And if you're not a human that just wants to shed love and light and music and story and joy on the planet, but you're actually somebody who wants to control narratives and make money off of others, you're fucked. We are fucked. I am here to spread joy and be like in love with just being a soul embodied in this brief body. Like, that's
in this bag of bones. We get a short time. We might as well enjoy it.
Very short, and I love it. But I don't trust the intentions of those who try to control it all. That's the problem. We know. What are we talking about? It's the worst.
No, but no. Because this is a good spin to then spin it back to why I've done this podcast is because, like my favorite joke is this Norm Macdonald joke where he goes, somebody says, Frank killed himself. And I can't believe, like, why would he do that? And Norm's like, you don't know why? He's like, do you live in like a cotton candy castle? You haven't dealt with the tragedies of life, which just is a series of catastrophes and that it always ends horribly. And it's like, yeah, but then you have these beautiful things like music and art and an album or something, these moments that, with, the things that in all of these horrible things that we experience in life, so much beauty has come out of that. Something like even the stuff that you've worked on, some of your solo stuff,
Thank you.
No, but you know what I mean. Yeah. It's like you
but it's more than as a mother of a 14-year-old and how people are being wired and perceived. Even when like this became a way for me to listen to music, I'm like, oh, great. I'm not going to know how to find music anymore. It's about the process in which we find joy and connect with others. If all I want to do is have sacred connections with humans through all of these cool things you're talking about, music, art, blah, it is the medium in which we share it and the way in which our brain receives it. If we all know now that like typing versus writing is a different way of processing your feelings and sharing, like translating your feelings. And we all know that I love you, relationships building over the screen do not have the same oxytocin, etc. That even the phone, let alone the bar next door, let alone the alleyway. Yeah. So if we are losing the connective tissue of how we transmit these things, we are rewiring the way humans receive the beauty and the light. That is my concern. not to mention the tech creeps that are going to use it to control people. And those people will not be as thoroughly feeling because they will have been receiving on a surface level. That is my concern. We are losing a connection to our soul. Just like we all know, they are mining for our soul and our taste and our love and our joy as we use those things. They're also removing parts of our soul. They're literally sucking it out.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a concern to me.
You know what?
Not to mention.
Now I'm happy that you drove down here from upstate New York and we didn't do this on StreamYard because this would have, the connection here, this means so much more to the fans.
Absolutely.
Oh, dude, this is great. Yeah. This is so great.
Let's rewind to 1992.
But let's take it even back before that because first of all, I want to congratulate you on your book coming out in March. Are you excited? I mean,
I am
you must
very
be.
excited. We're announcing tomorrow in terms of to the public. I've been working on it for years, obviously, but we announce it tomorrow, and I am very excited, primarily because it was, imagine therapy, psychedelics times 10,000 writing your origin story and memoir. So it was one of the most healing and labor-intensive emotional, intellectual things I've ever done. Albums and music and visuals and art and all the other things I do use a very different part of me. And this, I went out to reflect and heal parts of my life and my story, and it worked. And I'm mostly incredibly transformed by the process of writing it. Now I get to go into that magic thing where you give it to the people, and how do the people get transformed or how do they respond? So I'm excited about the exchange because I've been on maternity leave for about 15 years. So I'm also
I saw that. It was like you were a rock star for years, and then when you and your husband decided to have the baby, you were like, I'm a mom now.
Well, mainly I had never lived in one house for more than 6 months since I was 16, and I was 40 years old. So I had only been a nomad traveling, and I knew that I didn't want to be a traveling mother. I also had the luxury of touring for 20 whatever years.
So you stacked some cash.
I also just had seen the world, and I'm like, what is it like to be in the same house?
Where did you set your
We are
flag?
in Hudson, New York.
So that's where you guys.
We've been there. Yeah.
Weren't you in LA and then when you got pregnant and then you moved out, or no?
No, I lived between LA and New York, and then I tried to move back to Canada during the Bush years, during the Iraq thing, and then I fell in love with a New Yorker, and I came back, but I was like, but not New York City. Like, what's the option then? Because I had never really been in between the major cities in the world. I've traveled every major city in most continents, and on one of our first dates, my New Yorker boyfriend and Montreal girl met in between in upstate New York and at that remarkable Hudson Valley area with these like insane Renaissance skies and rivers and Catskill Mountains. And it hit on such a fundamental level that I had never been anywhere in between. And for the first time, by moving to Hudson, New York, I fell in love with America as a Canadian living in conflict in America my whole life.
Sure.
My mother's an expat. I was raised with a very radical. My parents are socialists who are basically like, by the way, that system's not going to work. If you don't feed your people and take care of them with education and medical attention, they will break.
Sure.
And then if you let the corporate people have all the power, it will break. And I was indoctrinated as a child understanding that. So I always lived here much to my friends in the 90s who were still living in a bubble of, we are America, everything's amazing. I'm like, oh, fuck no, you don't get anything for your taxes. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I was always, skeptical with my picket sign. Now I don't have to picket anymore because apparently I was right. But that's, upstate New York was the geographical in-between for two people who fell in love, but it was also a way for me to fall in love with America and do unfinished business of my mother who left in the 60s. She was from Boston.
Yeah.
And she did not fit in. She was it was all about everything for her between the race inequality and Vietnam War. She was like, get me out of here. So she found Montreal and raised me a real Montrealer and a real international person, all about international. And I grew up on the NME. I didn't grow up on MTV. So I was much more, looking out into the world like a lot of other countries do. Whereas, of course, the U.S., which is what makes it amazing and annoying, is they only look at themselves and look inside themselves. but unavoidably, America had the best rock music happening at the time of my youth.
I mean, you're not lying, dude.
So
you are not lying.
I was attracted. And I was given a once in a lifetime opportunity. But upstate New York is where we live, and we. The moment I got pregnant, we bought an 1880s factory to start an art center. So from the minute I was gonna be landlocked in one house and in one neighborhood, I'm like, well, I better make the neighborhood
cool.
Make
it cool, dude. Yeah.
Man. And bring all this stuff that I love from around the world to my backyard.
Should we do a rummage sale again? And they're like, another rummage sale, dude. We're doing rummage sales.
I have art expos, flea markets. I do. I have music festivals. I mean, I've been like working nonstop. I also felt like, having been given this crazy opportunity at 22 when I joined Whole, that I wanted to give back to alternative culture. So we founded Basilica Hudson in 2010, when I thought, a decade away from the 90s, that we were in desperate, like, if we don't hold on to the magic of the 90s, we're going to be so screwed. So even in 2002, I had little signs, leave your phones at home. Like, I was trying to resurrect the magic of the 90s 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Who knew what we would actually need to do now? So this year is our 15-year anniversary, and we do a couple annual music festivals, Basilica Soundscape, 24-hour drone, experiments in sound and music. We have farm and flea markets, vintage markets. We have contemporary dance. We have like all kinds of
installations.
Lots of
the
installations.
goodies.
So
just
I've
free
been,
dance.
Yes.
I can imagine.
Everything. So I've been doing that, and that was an amazing way for me to be home, to build a little corner of the universe that I could kind of believe in.
Yeah.
And then also be able to give back to up and coming counterculture emerging artists and weirdos. Like, I want to, I've been so lucky. So I just wanted to give back. And then in terms of my comeback in 2026 and my memoir, it really is because my daughter just turned 14. I see the way the world is. I'm a futurist and a lover of life. So I'm not saying doomsday, but yes, there are doomsday components.
It's just, we're not in the right direction. And
and people, we're losing track, and this is when, like, people of our generation, Gen X, has a responsibility to not only get people psyched about what we had that maybe we could bring back a bit. Maybe you kids would actually like a zine or whatever it's going to be. We got to bring the magic back, but we also have to take responsibility for what we witnessed. And as we know, we were all not okay with even how shit was going in the 90s. We were like the corporate sellout, freak out that was happening was real. We were mined. We were basically souls of creative freaks who were turned into like Coca-Cola cans. And we watched it all happen. And that was not cool with us. We were not happy, and then the digital thing started coming in, and then the record labels now have this different contract. Wait a second. You're still taking all the same percentages, but you don't even have to make a record. Are you evil?
Yeah.
So, just watching that, it's our responsibility to say, hey, we witnessed that. We saw what happened, and it was not cool. And we never bent down, and we were resisting the whole time. There was much more of a resistance. Now everybody's just like shilling for corporations. This is what we do. We're all like, it's crazy.
Well,
I mean, sovereignty of soul and self is very important. And here we are all entangled with these creepy things. I have a phone. I do it. I understand all these conveniences, but it is my job now with this book to reflect on the things that made me happy, excited, and have deep, lifelong connections with my peers and with my moment, my generation. Every generation has a movement of some sort. Ours was kind of, because of all of the big bands that came from it, and there was obviously a zeitgeist moment with Kurt. So obviously that not every generation has a Kurt in a music scene like that, but they have other things.
Of course. Yeah.
But because that was our moment and I was front row center.
You were in the thick of it.
I feel a responsibility. I just want to share it, but also I needed to heal my own brain.
Sure.
What happened?
I love that you said that. It was like something that you felt like you needed to do. I mean, how long did it take you to finish writing from when you started?
It was pretty fast. It happened, like everybody got the tectonic shift of COVID. So in 2020, when everything changed, it was like our art center closed and I went hiding in the mountains of Canada for a a year with our daughter, so she wouldn't have to be like living in like Zoom school. So
What's the mountains of Canada?
That's the Rocky Mountains, so out west. So I had a
So
cool
like Vancouver.
pilgrimage inland, isolated,
New
hiding.
Westminster. I was just there.
Nelson, British Columbia. It is a hidden gem within the.
Oh, I think I matched with a girl on Raya on there, and it's like what 4 hours from
so
Vancouver,
cool.
maybe.
It's about like 5 or 6. It's very close to the Washington border. Like you basically fly into Spokane and go up.
Okay.
It is such a hidden treasure. It's for like super snowboarder people. That's like one of those hidden treasures.
Yeah.
But it's also like weed capital, plant-based medicine capital. It's like psychedelic, crazy. Little old mining town that looks like a storybook. It was just like an accidental find for me and my family. And there I was, locked in a cool rental loft, sending my daughter to a cool school without a mask. Like, what do I do? And I was about, 50 was around the corner. I'm like, by 50, I want to have a draft of my memoir. I got to just because in my book, for those who read it in the future, a lot of it is about my origin stories, paying tribute to the city that raised me, my city of Montreal, but my parents, kick-ass, frontline, feminist mother, radical socialist, broadcaster, radio show, TV, journalist, father. I just had the coolest parents that raised me in a way that I want to just like offer to future people is just find your own voice, be an independent if possible. They never worked for anybody. They just worked for themselves, freelancers who just like paved their way based on their passion and their perspective. So that's how I was raised, and I worship my parents. My father's long dead, and his death is a big part of the book. The book, by the way, is only a decade. It's 91 to 2001, the decade that defined me and my generation. So it's only a little slice of me, but I give big tribute to my origin stories of how I was made and why I fit in perfectly when Billy recommended me to Courtney and I joined Hull.
Yeah, and also like to say being an independent, I was like the fact that you basically left both of them when you could have continued and made more money and kept touring. It's to do your own stuff, which is like, that's what I was saying is like you are an artist, even the way you created this. It's just like, I did my thing. This was cool, but I got to work on this now. And I know so many other, whether it's a comedian or filmmakers or people that I met throughout my life that just like, that's done. Now it's on to the next thing. And bringing it back to Montreal, which I've done the Just for Laughs Festival. I've done it 8 out of the last 12 years because the last couple years.
Over now?
Pardon?
Something?
No, it's back now.
Back.
Well, it
weird,
bankrupt.
Right? Oh,
no, it bankrupt during COVID.
That's weird.
And then I think ICM bought it, and then ICM I think merged with somebody else, or Howie Mandel bought it, and then it went away, and then it came back. Okay. I think this year was the first year back, but I've done like The Nasty Show, New Faces, this podcast. We did our launch there when we got with Spotify. Montreal, it's like because I know some of the venues like Club Soda and Metropolis.
All of them I played. All of them I grew up in.
What was your venue? Because mine in DC was 930 Club, which is like I know you've probably been to, and it's like it was the blessing of having that where I grew up and being able to go there.
Exactly.
And I wasn't like Pavement didn't come into my life till later, really. But I knew a lot of cool people that liked him. But I wanted to ask, like, being in Montreal, like
it had everything. It had everything.
I know it had everything, but it's like it's still not New York. It's still not DC, and it's 6 hours away, so it's not too far. But it's like, what was the scene like there?
The coolest. It was perfect. It was. We had a lot of connection with the DC scene. We were kind of isolated down the corridor of like New York and DC. Bands would come up a lot in terms of small underground, but we had our CBGBs was called Fufun Electrique, still alive and well, French for electric buttocks. It was
very Montreal,
punk room. It started like this by a bunch of body painters. Yeah, and I went for the first time when I was 15. It was like upstairs in an apartment.
At 15?
Everybody. Oh, my God. I started working at bars at 15. I mean, it was like Montreal's freeform. Drinking age is 18, but you could go at like.
They don't give a shit.
I've been going out my whole life.
Sure.
But I started as a ticket girl there at 17, and then I got my first job as a cassette DJ at the Dive Bar up the block, where all the bands that would play Fufun or Metropolis would then go to the bar, the Biftec, an old Portuguese steakhouse that had in the back of the kitchen had been like gutted, and it was 2 tape-to-tape decks and a little mixing board, and I was the first female cassette DJ at the
You're a
Biff
cool
Deck.
kid, man. I can
So,
tell you. You had cool parents.
I grew up in that neighborhood, too.
Oh, God,
so,
I bet if we were in high school together, you were my Courtney Kelly. She was like, oh, she wore the cool sweaters, had like short hair with a pin in it, and you're just like, oh, God. She's way hipper than I am. And so, what bands were coming in there that you were seeing?
I saw every single band that you would ever. I mean, everything. Sonic Youth, Juices Lizard, Ice-T. I mean, like Pavement, of course. Smashing Pumpkins. My band opened up. So my little local band that I had, Tinker, opened up for the Pumpkins on the Siamese Dream tour.
And that's true that one of them threw something at.
Oh, that's all. Yes, it's all very much in the book, and it is the beer bottle that changed my life. That was when I was a ticket girl. I didn't even play bass yet. I was 19, and they were playing for $1 at a thing called Looney Tuesdays, and it's just
insane.
like, just come for $1 and come see this band. And I had seen the Sub Pop logo because their first 12-inch was on Sub Pop. So me and my roommates went down. We were one of 20 in the crowd.
20 people.
20 people
For Smashing
Gish.
Pumpkins.
Yeah, so
That's
Gish,
insane.
it was their first show.
It's before Gish?
Way before,
or it's, okay.
It was right before, like Gish had been coming out. It was 1991. It was like summer of 1991. And we went, all they were selling at the merch booth was this 12-inch on Sub Pop. They didn't even have Gish there. And my roommate's boyfriend was soon to be in a band. I don't know if you follow super underground Montreal, but Godspeed You Black Emperor. They're like a pretty serious underground Montreal. Embodies everything that is cooler than cool than cool than cool. They were a band that had a similar timeline to Radiohead, but they never had their photo taken, never did an interview. They're still alive and well today.
Still
30
touring.
years in.
Oh,
They're
wow.
still touring. They're a cult following. A lot of my roommates ended up going into that. So by the time I joined Hole in 94, I was 100% Celine Dion, like no cooler than that. It was like, you are joining Hole. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to see the world. I know. I told them no, but they really want me to. So that's like how ridiculously committed to being nobody I was.
That's so funny. I mean, it's you. Because I always there's so many people that I've worked with that I was like, God, they should be so much bigger. Like you're saying, that band that's just kind of laid in the cut, and they probably could have been Radiohead if they just would have played the game a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with playing the game, because look, being able to play the game has been able to get you to the life that you want now.
Yeah, and I have a weird balance, much like you said, when I left, I always leave what I've done, because my commitment is to myself evolving and growing as an artist, as an emotional, spiritual person. So I don't stay longer than that is stimulating me. So even with Montreal, it was kind of like I was finishing my university. I was majoring photography. My plan was to do my master's at RISD and be a photographer and just nurture my love of music by shooting bands and having a band on the side. That seemed like a cool life plan to me. But fate had other plans, and I was plucked out of obscurity and joined Hole instead. But leading up to that, it was as simple as I just want to find... now it's sounds so dumb because everybody's in the new age world, the cult of self, But at the time, it was radical that my parents never told me what to do. They just said, who are you? You tell us. Oh, you like a camera? Here, I have a shitty camera. Oh, want a bass? Okay, well, why don't you work a couple extra weekends? I worked 5 days a week from the time I was 16. I've just been working to
you were drinking already. I mean, you need to pay for your bar tab. Christ.
I've always been very good with that. That's also how I survived and wrote a memoir about being in a band with drug addicts. I don't have drug problems. So I had a ticket girl job. I had the cassette DJ job, and every single band came through there. It wasn't sometimes I go to Toronto or Burlington or New York if the band wasn't routed through, but at that time, peak 90s, 91 through 94, they were all coming through Montreal because
there's a market, and they're also they're not, it's close enough to America, and they're probably, a lot of them they were in the vans, they weren't in the big touring thing, so it was cheap.
So I saw every single band that ever was touring then, so I was lucky to have my visceral education and mainly my flame ignited. That first night I saw the Pumpkins in 91, the story about the beer bottle, halfway through this set of this unknown band, I had found my favorite band. I had never seen that level of commitment because everybody was still pretty punk in 91. Like everybody was still, a lot of like what Pavement and a lot of like the I don't give a fuck, this kind of like haphazardness.
Yeah.
Although Jane's Addiction, who I had seen the year before, nothing shocking, they had an aura, but a lot of people didn't. They were like very like rough around the edges. Billy and Darcy and James, they had this like, psychedelic grandiosity. And then Jimmy Chamberlain, one of the best drummers ever, was just so much better than most drummers. So there I was watching this like unknown band, blown away by the largeness of it. And as I was falling in love with like, this is a universe I've not seen before in a shitty club. My friend, who later became the drummer for Godspeed You Black Emperor, started catcalling, like, attitude, drop the fucking attitude, assholes. And I looked over and I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, they're playing like they think they're in an arena. They're not an arena. This is a punk rock club. What's wrong with them? And so me and my friend had totally different, like, visceral, opposite response. And while Billy, between songs, was taking a break, my friend screams, drop the fucking attitude, asshole. And Billy Corgan looks up. I'm just tuning my guitar. And my friend throws a beer bottle at the singer, which crashes and smashes across his guitar. Billy delicately takes off his guitar, jumps off the stage, strangles this guy.
Oh, he's a wrestling fan. Yeah. Dude, he probably suplexed the motherfucker. Good God.
So they were rolling. The giant bouncers came, separated. And all I thought was, you just ruined my favorite show I've ever seen, Asshole Bruce. And then he got removed. And then Billy, to my surprise, got up, straightened himself out, and said, we have one more for you, Montreal.
Nice.
And it was which is I Am One, opening track of Gish, which was the 12-inch they had that night. Mm-hmm. And I was sold. I was like, that's it. This is like the band I'm going to follow. I better pick up the bass like that girl on the stage.
Is it seeing Darcy that was like...
I mean, it was more the sound of the music, but a week later I saw Hole opening up for Buffalo Tom, and that bass player, Jill, was the most relatable. And then I had seen The Breeders. I had seen Sonic Youth. There was endless girls, Babes in Toyland. There was just like endless cool girls on bass. So for me, it wasn't necessarily Darcy. It was just like that seemed to be the reoccurring position that a lot of women had. And it also made the most music sense to me. I felt it deeper, as all do, but some people like to be the singer. Some people like to be the drum solo guy. I just knew right away. Yeah. I just knew right away that the bass was where I would. So I slowly started teaching myself bass after that show. But as that happened, Billy walked off the stage, and this is how my life changed. As I went up to the guy unloading his gear, and I said, hello, I am Melissa Auf der Maur from Montreal, Canada, and on behalf of my city, I apologize, and I will follow you to the end of time. So I went to apologize as a good politician's daughter, polite Canadian, to apologize for the beer bottle, and then we became pen pals, and that's how later my band opened up for them. Yeah. So by the time in 1993, a few years later, I'd finally started my band, Tinker, and I had written to Billy to the old address. We had been exchanging postcards. I'm like, hey, I have a band. Can I open up for you on the Siamese Dream Tour? Congratulations. What a great record. Got returned to sender. So I sent a letter to the P.O. box on the back of the Siamese Dream Virgin Records CD.
What a Hail Mary. Like, just...
And it worked. It worked.
He seems like he would read that shit.
I mean, yeah.
He seems like, he's a podcaster. He's doing everything. Like, he's a people person. Yeah.
He is, yeah. I mean, he and I share the same birthday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And that was quickly, early on in our relationship, that we understood that we were twin sibling flames. Like, there's a lot of similarities between us. Even when we're kind of out of touch, I feel in touch. And, yeah, I like people, he likes people, and we like to talk. Yeah.
But it's just such an interesting story, like, for that to happen. And I want to, because I want to bring this back to Pavement. But so he was the one that encouraged you to join Hole, which I saw that. And if I'm not mistaken, like, because I know, like, I want to do your first run-in with listening to the CD, before I don't know, it doesn't make a difference we go there, but was it true that your first gigs with them, with Hole, was at Lollapalooza?
The Reading Festival was my first show, which was the first show that Courtney performed after Kurt died, first show with the new bass player after Kristen died. So it was my first show. It was their first return show, and that was August of 94. Kurt had passed in April, and June was Kristen, and I joined in July.
Wow, what a heavy run to I mean, not. I want to talk about Pavement, but it's like just that moment. I mean, what was the vibe like? I mean, it obviously had to be like.
Well, luckily for those who really care, I wrote about it all in the book painstakingly. Yeah. But it is, I joined a band in the wake of death and in people who were in shock and mourning. It was, when Billy recommended me to Courtney, well, Courtney was, because for those who don't know, Live Through This, Courtney's record came out the day after Kurt killed himself.
Oh, yeah. We did.
So,
it
doesn't make any sense, So this woman, what does she do? Then her bass player died. So Billy was trying to help as an old friend of hers, and they couldn't find the right bass player, but mainly Courtney couldn't get out of bed. And then he was just like, there's this girl in Montreal I have a really good feeling about. And then that was actually the summer of 94 when the Pumpkins were headlining Lollapalooza. And in Montreal, I went to the show, and he was like, you got to join my friend Courtney's band. I'm like, no way. That is insane.
Did you like the record? Like, had you already
I mean, I was a DJ, so I had played everything, and that's how we're going to tie into Slanted and Enchanted.
Yeah.
I would get vinyls from the college radio station, borrow them from the college radio station, kind of like a library, because I took a volunteer position, writing numbers and descriptions, and I would take them home for the night, and I would record them onto my cassettes for my DJ set. So Slanted and Enchanted, I had borrowed the vinyl, put them on a cassette, and then use it in my DJ set. But same was for Live Through This. I mean, I just had I knew all the stuff. I was a DJ 3 to 5 nights a week. It was more that it was Courtney, which I now know all too well, and I realized I was mainly called to duty to support an innovative, pioneering voice of a woman of my generation that was 10 light years, thousands of years ahead of everybody in her own, version and understanding of how fucked the world is and how misogynistic and
sure. So
all of her being burned at the stake by everybody and everything. By the time I joined in that band, It was a loaded hell zone, but I now, 25 years later, understand a lot better what force she was in the universe and why I was called in my destiny to support her. So that's all in the thing, in the book. But it really is... like I have a parallel life. I have this giant mythological thing that happened to me, the beer bottle and Billy, and then I joined this band and I have to support this broken, wondrous voice of female in my generation. But then I have literally all these photos and stories to tell about just the fun thing as a tourist fan. I got to travel everywhere. I got to do everything. So I have two worlds going, the big, oh my God, that's giant quagmire of soul destruction. And then I have the photos and the fun of I was just a girl who loved music, who got to tour with every single band in the 90s. So by the time we were on tour Lollapalooza 95, Hole and Sonic Youth co-headlining with Pavement right below us. Although my show, the Reading Festival show, August of 94, Pavement played directly after us. So they were at the peak. They had done such a great job, made a splash with Slanted Enchanted, and then Crooked Rain was out that summer. So they shared the bill that first night of my first show with Hole. But then 6 months later, we had Lollapalooza, and they were under us. So we had reversed in the bill. Mm-hmm. And when I was listening to this record, getting ready for the show, I realized just how much of these songs in my mind's eye are just wafting through 1995 summer sweaty crowds. It was the soundtrack. They really have a unique kind of, they sound like nobody else at the time, although they have hints of the cool, not trying too hard, cynical jokester, but really committed to being uncommitted to anything. They're so unique. And I realized that in listening to the record this week, that it just sounds like Lollapalooza 95 to me. To me, because Beck was also on that tour and Moby was also on that tour. And I've listened, but there's something about Pavement that sounds like that festival to me.
There's when people look back at the 90s, even when the Simpsons did that episode, because I just had Cypress Hill on.
Do you remember when Homer painful? Do you understand? We were supposed to be the Pumpkins, and I have the script like that we were written in, and Courtney's managers went in and said, actually, this is a caricature of Courtney, and we're not going to. I'm like, what are you talking about?
You would have been on this. What the fuck?
Oh, I can't even tell. It's in my book where I'm like, short amounts of regrets. Me and Patty, the drummer, were like, yes, we're in The Simpsons. They had our script, and I was like written perfectly. I was like a cosmic, like talking about astrology, a hippie. They had everybody down straight. And they were getting ready to send us the drawings of who we were when the management decided, actually, that makes Courtney look bad. I'm like, you are in denial of what Courtney actually is, a powerhouse maniac.
Yeah.
So they replaced us with the Pumpkins.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up.
I'm so angry.
Buy the book, guys. You'll get more of it. You'll get more of the story. But that was the thing, is they show the audience, and just the way, like, because I was too young to really go to concerts in 94 and 95. I mean, I was born in 79, but so I started going towards like the end of the century,
which is not the same.
Not at all.
Oh my God,
but I did go.
Changed so quick.
I did go to a lot of shows. 100%. It was after Kurt died. It was all. Well, I think that was
95 was kind of the end. That's why, to me, Pavement and that Lollapalooza that I did with them, everything changed after that. The kind of peak of our 90s like explosion ended at 95, and then it started turning it into Hootie and the Blowfish and Korn and Blink-182 and all, like, what? And all of those things don't sound alike. So the one thing that the end of the 90s did have was the amazing fact that nobody sounded alike. Everybody was their own cool thing pre-95, but it was cooler, in my opinion. Then a lot of these people also were invaded by the body snatchers of major labels, so they didn't have the time in the van to like become funny and deep and connected, and it was just a lot of trying to get big fat. Like Bush was a big turning point. I'm sure you remember that everything's zen.
Course.
Like that's when I was like, oh shoot. But so 95 was definitely the end, and having started as a ticket girl in 91 and seeing like, okay, now we're rolling into a different world. Like, so, and then by the time 2000, forget it, in iTunes and MySpace and blah. So,
but when I said Kurt dying, it was like he was like I don't want to call him, if I'm just throwing this in political aspect, he was like, let's say this, if he was the guru of the of the 90s, in the sense that he was pro women, pro people, pro gay, pro whatever, and then he's the face that then passed away. We don't have a leader anymore. I mean, Eddie's doing his thing, and Chris Cornell and Scott Weiland's on drugs, and Courtney is, at the time dealing with so much and suffering, but then you have these people, like where I was get to is like a Pavement, that, because dude, it's like on the surface, it is like this chunky, these not erratic guitars, but just jangly guitars, and just it's so different, but lyrically out of tune, but lyrically it's the same thing as like Loser by Beck.
Yes,
it's like
exactly.
This is like, whereas like that was a pop hit, this was like this album, and then even Crooked Rain, like these are like these indie, things where it's like
the air we breathe. It was the actual soundtrack of the time. There was something, and I think what you're going to say in Lollapalooza, the Simpsons episode. Yeah, I'm sure, I don't remember, but I'm sure the crowd looks like they're in Pavement.
Yeah, they all do.
They're just like indie rock guys. They epitomized what I'm pretty smart, but I don't really give a fuck. I don't try too hard. I'm not too cute. I'm not a jock. It was just like the epitome of an indie rock guy. Yeah. And they were so nice, and they were not overly nice, and they were not just there. I was happy I was between this and Blondie, Parallel Lines, because Blondie changed my life.
Such a great record.
But Pavement. Oh my God, the best.
I don't know words, by the way, so I just make them up.
I know them, but they defined the vibe of the guy of our generation, basically. Pavement dudes are the cool dudes of the 90s that really were smart enough, didn't give a fuck enough, just perfect. Like, and I think that this breakout record for them was definitely, obviously it's what put them on the map for every other pure group that were like, oh, cool.
So did they blow up? Because keep in mind, like I knew of them. Mm-hmm. I wasn't there, but it's like, and I knew of them, but I was like I said, I loved everything, but it wasn't like it was accessible. When you're a young kid, you only have X amount of dollars. So I'm not going to go spend $18 at the Waxy Maxi to get this band I might have heard of. I fucked up once doing that with Death Cab for Cutie, and I was like, I'm not doing that again. But the moral of the story, nothing against Death Cab if you like them people. But it's like there was there was like, it's years later with the way the accessibility of getting music. Like, how big was like Pavement?
It was a slow, like I said, like weirdly, they were back to back with us on the bill between 94 and 95. I had seen them in the small clubs. They were a slow burn. They were just building consistently. I went to see that Pavement movie recently just to sort of get, to laugh and see how silly of a concept it was, because it was silly. But it kind of helped me also place this sort of murky, like, where were they? They weren't huge. They weren't like, but they were on MTV and they did have songs on the radio. I don't, they were, Matador Records is an iconic thing of that time. So that label, just like Touch and Go in Chicago and Amphetamine Reptile in the Midwest and Merge Records in the South, like the labels kind of, and then of course Discord and Fugazi in DC. There was just certain, and Sub Pop. Sub Pop made the ones that, broke through, the Soundgardens, et cetera. But Matador had its own thing, and Pavement kind of were like the kings of Matador. And there was other cool bands on that label happening, but they were sort of the kings of that label. So it kind of kept them because they never signed to a major label. Unless I'm wrong, somebody Google it.
You want to check that? Shannon, are you us now?
I think they kept
I just popped in.
You just popped in? AJ's gone?
Yeah, he has another show. Can you tell me the thing? I'm sorry.
Just look up to see if, what was it?
Just Google, did Pavement ever sign to a major label? I think they've been on Matador always, and that is why you can't quite answer. They have the influence the way that Sonic Youth has influence, but even Sonic Youth signed to DGC, just like Hole and everybody and Beck and everybody else. So I think that they just kept small on purpose. They're smart, that's who wants to be in a giant band.
Do you think? I mean, you were friends with Steven, right? Like
Malcolm is? Yeah. I mean, like peer touring buddies.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever get the air that they were like anti-success?
Yes.
Like maybe they were.
Oh my God, we all were, but they fucking held it down. That's what's cool.
Is that? Because I trust me, I respect anybody that's like, I'm not. Is it self-sabotage, or is it like?
It was a generational thing. We came out of the 80s. Do you know how lame the 80s were between
the 80s
spandex
ruled,
and
dude. Hall & Oates rules. Wham's cool.
No, music. I mean, I worship.
Reagan and fucking.
That's what I mean. America in the 80s was not cool. It was anti-everything, basically. UK 80s, like I said, I grew up in the NME. I was in heaven, and for me, it was the Cure, Depeche Mode, the Smiths. I was in joy. The America meant nothing to me until 90s, I literally, the UK had everything I ever needed as an alternative melancholic music kid. But then what they were reacting to, Bleach, everybody, Matador, the labels that popped up, was this hideous decade of pro-business, pro-war, pro-money, So you have to understand, that's what Fugazi, anyone who hasn't really looked up Fugazi, Minor Threat, and Discord records, it was like we were all had to be anti-success, or else you were part of the evil system that was going to destroy the world like it is right now. So we were a moment where I had the joy to talk to Michael Stipe yesterday, because I'm working on another project around my memoir with my photography. He's the best.
We've had Mike on the podcast. I haven't had. We had Mills on the podcast. But we haven't had
redhead
Stipe,
backup singer Mike Mills, my guy.
But it's like it's so funny. It's just like, because of this podcast, it's the way that I'm becoming a fan of Pavement. I always loved REM, but then I've just like fallen in love with them when you really get to dig into them.
But they epitomized, and they were right before, so they. A bit like Jane's Addiction, and they were, and U2, they were before the boom, of course, but they had sort of were the bridge, and they held that kind of integrity too. Do you remember the whole thing that Microsoft was going to give them like $20 million to introduce their new computer thing with
I didn't know that.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
Oh, wow.
And they did not let them. So like, we're not going to be bought by. Imagine if that song had been destroyed and also been the welcome to the computer.
Yeah.
The end of the world as we know it.
Yeah.
So that level of integrity was just in us as a response to a shitty world before us. And what I am most, concerned about / why I wrote this book is that was just embedded in our DNA. And now every single musician, for example, I worship Billie Eilish. of course she's on a major label. What else would she be doing? Of course, if you want to reach the masses, of course she wears the Gucci clothes and does the thing, because that's just, everybody's in the giant money game now, even if they're the coolest people on the planet. This is the difference, is none of us were, and we got basically corrupted. We are and that's what the second half of the 90s was the corruption of, oh, cool, let me prey on you, broken broke person. I'll buy you dinner. Oh, you see this record contract, and that. And I was, even through my journey in whole, holding down my no way. Like, I don't want to sell my soul to you forever. No way. Because I had the benefit of being a product of the real deal of, no, you're not going to own me. It's not going to happen. I have to serve my integrity first. So it was a generation of that. There was a sweet spot there. I long for it to come back. And Pavement, anyone who is following them now and watch that silly movie, which in some ways,
I wish I would have watched it. I didn't even know if it was
you can
out.
watch it on, I'm sure, Netflix or whatever. In some ways, it's so silly and encapsulates how silly they are, but they're also so brilliant. And it's like this effortless brilliance in that we're not going to try too hard, but we're gold. We're cool.
It's the same thing. No, I agree with that. If it's the same thing that if you strip away the grunge sound in a lot of Nirvana songs, these beautiful pop songs, and I mean, this record is like, if you take away the jangliness and the distortion, and he sings it. I like his voice, so I'm not putting that down. But if he just beefed it up a little bit, not even that, it just would be this, like, some of these
and
are
the lyrics, he's a real armchair philosopher dude. That guy is writing, he clearly is so well read. Poetry, literature, clearly the guy, his lyrics, and it just makes it seem like this effortless, he rolled off the couch and now he's spewing perfect bohemian poetry. I love that about him. And when we get done, I have one set of lyrics that I want to recite when we go through.
Oh, sure.
We go through the track list.
We go through the tracks,
no,
yeah.
Is that what we do?
Well, where are we,
what
Shan? Where are we at right now?
What do you do?
Time-wise?
Yeah.
46 minutes. I just reset the timer on the screen.
Okay, cool. So,
minutes.
we can do it.
I can do anything.
Okay, cool.
But it's more is that what you do usually?
Oh, yeah. But I mean, sometimes dude, we don't.
Yeah. What do you want
we
me to
do? Whatever we want to, dude. It's free flowing, dude. We're the Pavement of podcast, dude. We don't give a shit.
Exactly. Well, I have a ton of notes of of context also for people who, when this record came out in 92, and when I would raid the college radio station vinyls and just borrow them for a couple of days, it was hand in hand with two other bands, Sebado and Polvo and Pavement. These are the three bands that had this effortless, out of tune, wackadoodle, zany but brilliant, and energy, like a punk rock energy that has just that wackiness of them. Sebado is phenomenal. Lou Barlow, who later he went solo and had some kind of more palatable hits later, but there was this lo-fi, bad, shitty guitar you get at a thrift shop vibe that was actually truly their vibe. They went and bought the shitty guitar that couldn't stay in tune. That's why it sounded the way it sounded. So there was a good group of them that sounded like this, and Polvo was my favorite of them. Polvo means dust in Spanish, I think. And they had they were on that label from Chapel Hill called Merge Records that Superchunk were on. So you kind of trusted scenes and you trusted labels, and Matador hailed them, and then Sub Pop had Sebado.
Yeah, you really did. I never thought about that. There was you really would be Sub Pop is.
They were curators. They were the influencers of the time. That's why the A&R people and the big mainstream major labels were you have all the power, but you're mostly creeps. Why? You now hold the power to curate. And a lot of them were very nice. We were lucky with Hole. We had great A&R guy, Mark Cates, who had everybody had Beck and Sonic Youth. And so there was nice people. I'm not saying they were all creepy, but they had a job to do, which was find these people, sign a shitty deal, tempt them with a lot of money first, and then nothing on the back end. And yes, great tour budgets, record budgets, but then you'd start being morphed by their need, of course. But Pavement didn't do that, and neither did Polvo, neither did Sebado. And when I think of Pavement in 92, when I brought that record home, I was oh, that's another one of these wacky, got their shitty guitar, and they make singing that sounds like you can't sing good.
Yeah.
That's a weird, thing. Like Beck had it too of like, wow. And then when I was listening this week, I'm like, God, Stephen Malcolmus, great lyrics, great melodies, but sounds like as if a character is pretending they can't hold a tune. But
I mean,
somehow,
he really is.
somehow it's holding a tune.
No, but that's the thing I think that's so beautiful about it
I
is
know.
that it goes with the guitars, it goes with all the music and the instrumentation, and his voice just make this perfect. I don't know. It's just
It's very unique.
It really just, like you said, it did take me back, like listening to
Yeah.
this. And maybe if, like I said, I wasn't listening to it at the time, but it's like, oh, it just feels like the 90s. We actually did Crooked Rain. We did that with actual Rainn Wilson from The Office. It's always the people that there's certain bands that a lot of people have like reached out to do. Pavement was one. We always got cool people. The Replacements.
Yeah,
That's
also
another
had
one.
Their,
And they're very similar in a sense to this band too. Just they were more
like,
self-sabotaging.
Well, that's for sure. But they're also more singer-songwriter like that. Westerberg people. There was something similar to that. Once was big. Also, Soul Asylum. That was like a Midwestern sort of singer-songwriter thing that wasn't that big in the in the 90s. Was about bands. And when there's like a songwriter that's really prolific and you're like listening to his words and like a Bob Dylan, like folk stuff kind of thing.
Yeah.
Folk traditions, whereas of course I was not that, and the bands that I worshipped, which were all heavier than Pavement. I worship Pavement because they embody a spirit of laissez-faire and fuck everything, and all while being also nice. It's not punk; they're like nicely, politely punk. And but for me, that wasn't the music that inspired me to pick up anything. That was more the Pumpkins and even Soundgarden. And so for me, I was a heavy rock person who had deep appreciation for all these quirky weirdos that were just like unashamedly being themselves, nerdy, weird, freaky selves, which were great poster people for nerdy, freaky, cool people out there that didn't want to have to be like slick and perfect.
Yeah. Do you have any good stories like hanging out with them?
Yeah, so that cool Lollapalooza 95.
Because it's all pictures. I saw you have that tour diary thing. Yeah,
I was a photographer originally, as I said, so I went to school in photography, and then when I joined Whole, one of the first things I said was, shit, now I can't do my photography. And so I ended up turning my much more classically trained in the darkroom photography practice into a point-and-shoot camera. I joke now that I went to university for selfies because it was a lot of self-portraits, and I took a photo of me and every single person I ever met. And I recently ran into Beck, who was also on that tour. He was playing with the Boston Pops last summer, and I went for like a reunion because the A&R guy was going to be there, and I hadn't seen him in ages, and I brought a little photo from Lollapalooza. I'm like, oh, I took this Polaroid of you. I thought, and he pointed out that I was the only one on the tour that had a camera. He was like, it was so cool. You didn't hide that you cared. You were really excited. I'm like, yeah, I was on tour in the 90s, Lollapalooza.
I never
as
do
a
that.
music fan, I took pictures of everything every day, every crowd, every backstage. I just turned into like rock tourist. And I was, but it was funny the way Beck had said it of, wait, you cared and you didn't hide it. That was so cool of you. And I made friends with one, Lee Ronaldo from Sonic Youth. He also had a camera. He was kind of arty guy like me. And we would just chat about our film and what kind of old cameras we use. And it was kind of a rarity back then, which is why my follow-up to my memoir is a coffee table book of all my 90s photography and a museum exhibit that's going to travel around.
I want that so bad.
But so I finally, a quarter century later, have like archived and scanned all the photos. But on that tour, Spin Magazine had heard that I was always without a camera, so they had commissioned me and Courtney to do the Lollapalooza tour diary. So I took the photos and she wrote the text, and it's hilarious. You can find it online. Her I think the subline is the least sexy tour of America, of just like everyone was just like this cute nerdy indie rock everything. She was like kind of demonized for a million. People didn't treat her well in the 90s. She also was a drug addict, so she was hard to relate to, and the tragedy that was her whole self was very scary for people. Whereas I was like on both, like at the catering, hanging out with the roadies and the thing, but also protective of her, of like, this woman is like an abandoned human being, not just by her husband, but by her parents. She's like, fuck, she was emancipated. She grew up alone, like 16 years old, stripper. Like, what do you want from people who, I mean, yes, you can expect people to get better.
Yeah, of course.
But when your husband
Imagine if
is
that would
just
have happened
dying.
now, though. Imagine now with the way that social media
Yeah.
is and how much worse it would have been. I mean,
Yeah, who
just-
knows? Or maybe they would have been forgiving of this poor woman who
Maybe-
was like a
maybe.
drug
It
addict.
could have
who
gone either
doesn't
way.
know, mental health issues.
Sure.
Clearly.
But also, you got her. I mean, and do you think, and I know we're getting a little off topic,
Yeah.
but just because you brought it up, it's because when Celebrity Skin came out, that was like, and this is not an insult when I say it, that was like her best version. Like, she was gorgeous.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
she looked
well,
like she
remember
was clean.
Hollywood happened. She became
Yeah,
a
the
Hollywood
Milos Forman
movie star.
movies.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love The People versus Larry Flint.
And our shows at that time, I mean, Live Through This shows were insane because she was stage diving and like punk and everything was insane. And people were throwing shotgun shells at us. And it was just like stage girl.
Oh,
I was so crazy and so dangerous feeling every night.
Oh, wow.
Whereas by the time we got to Celebrity Skin and she's sober on the cover of every magazine, it was a whole other world. We were like, big glossy performers. I'm glad I did both. As a human, I'm glad I did. I continued to try other things, but I really did ride in the course of 5 years. We went from like totally like not a stitch of makeup, totally fucked up, to the most slick, photo perfect selves. Not to mention the slickness of the record. The production, the songwriting, so. I think Hole's arc, that album that came before Live Through This, Teenage Whore. I mean, when you look at 3 records in the course of 7 years, no band grows that fast and that weirdly rapid, incredible arc, that band. So, and she's underrated. So is Eric, the guitar player. It's just like the whole thing is overshadowed by Kurt.
Oh,
forever.
we did Live Through This
cool.
on the
that?
podcast.
Who
We
did
did that.
that?
Who did that? I think a comedian, Jesse May Peluso. This is pre-pandemic.
Okay.
Before we started,
Okay.
I don't know if we were with Spotify at that time, but what was funny was on my TV show, Busy Phillips, where she told a story about like idolizing Courtney Love and blah, 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 and then sang that with my band.
Oh,
and
fun.
like went full
like
Courtney.
Miss World or Doll Parts or
No, she did. What is
Celebrity
it?
Skin?
Go on, sing
Yeah, Violet.
But but that's the thing is that when I was like, and especially after talking to you and meeting you and hearing your perspective, and even the way that you're on tour with the camera, do you feel like with your positive energy, you were one of the factors that kind of helped move the band into that direction? Because it's not the music that you're listening that you grew up on, like you said. It's not. I don't call it overproduction, but it is a polished record.
Oh, it is a polished record.
Whereas Live Through This is like, I mean, it's.
Yeah, it was also a sign of the time.
Sure.
The label was like, hey, cool, just go to Atlanta for a couple weeks of this. By the time we had to make our comeback, that was the cycle. It's like people had these like, you'd start in a van with your first record that would kind of cost nothing, and then you were expected to have your comeback. Everyone, like, that's when like Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun, it was like, that next follow-up record had to have the top 40 hit, had to have the glossy production. So we were just following a model, unfortunately, that I was actually very doubtful of because I could tell it was going to kill parts of the soul of the band, which was our drummer, Patty. We lost her to addiction during the making of that record. That's her own fault, addiction, but it was also the pressure of like not everything goes anymore. You can't just like show up, you got to actually deliver. And the big producer, Michael Beinhorn, who gets a bad rap basically in the history of Hole because he had the girl drummer replaced by a male ghost drummer, which destroyed her for a decade. So, and like I had to sit back and watch those moral decisions. But the joke is, and I obviously say this in my book, is that I had the best musical experience of my life. I went to music school my whole life. So before I even started playing rock music, I had sung the Mozart Requiem in a 300 person choir. I had I was a trumpet player for 6 years. I was a musician. Trumpet was my instrument. I started in middle school. I was the first trumpet, the only girl in the section, and it was like
forced to do it, or that was the instrument
that
you
chose it.
You chose it. I was
it.
forced to play trumpet, and I wanted to play sax.
I chose it. Yeah. I could have played. No, I for some reason wanted to play the thing that none of the girls were playing, and I was always the best player. So I had the advantage of having musical ear developed young in my life. That's why when I joined Hole, when I played that show with them, I had only played 7 rock shows in my life. I had picked up the bass a year and a half before. I had not been slugging it. I just like Cinderella overnight. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Okay, cool. Oh, now I'm in a huge rock band. So I just had and the thing is that part of the slickness, other than it was a time and the budget and the demands of the managers and the label, is that I don't, what I'm most proud of, and like I've found like in the gutters of YouTube, they have analysis of this, but my backup vocals as a choir girl, which made a big difference in the live show too, when you have this like roaring witch, and then you have an angel in the background, that really got super honed in on that album.
It did, yeah.
And so I am so proud. Somewhere online you can see where they do those isolated mixes, and I have up to 3-part harmonies, tripled and doubled, plus doubling her chorus vocal. There's like 12 of me to every one Courtney on that record. So I am the candy wrapped around her growl that lifts it in a certain, and that was for me my most proud moment on that record. And I remember when we finished that record, and my bass playing is very good on the record too, I have to say. I mean, I loved stepping up, and I remember at the end, the very hard producer was like, "You are the easiest person in this band to work with musically." I was just like, I show up and do it. Thank you. I did my parts. I like my parts. He was like, very easy. I'm like, I excelled musically on that record, and I'm very proud of it. But I witnessed the demise of like the magic that I just knew it wasn't going to last, between her fame eclipsing into this like Hollywood thing and us losing the drummer. And then we were like a 3-piece on the cover of like Spin. That it just got confused. And then I left because I'm like, this is not sticking. We made like an amazing record, and I'm so proud of my musicality, but I also watched the corporate demands and her love of fame unravel the heart of the band, right? So, and we're very close now, but it's a miracle she didn't, I left her, and I left, I was scared.
Well, I saw the thing where you said that she sent like a 5-page fax or something from it, but obviously you guys just played together recently, right?
Yeah, and I just sang on her record. She's made an incredible comeback solo record that I'm so excited for.
Good.
Her. A real redemption through song. So no, I mean, we didn't talk for over a decade. I mean, it was not a easy departure.
Well, it's tough. I mean, especially it's like, because you suddenly became like a co-face of the band. You were all over the music videos.
Yeah.
I remember Gold Dust Woman. You're like backing her up. You're getting these solos, which is not a lot of bass players do.
It's true. It's true. And then I joined her ex-boyfriend Billy Corgan's band the next month. so
but that was timing. You didn't.
It was so cool.
It was awesome. But that
cool
was.
Timing.
It's not like you were like you left to do that.
Exactly.
You left because and he was like, dude, just come. We're friends. Like we're homies.
And Darcy had disappeared literally the same month that I was like leaving the band. So it was meant to be, and that's like the kind of like destined fairy tale part of my life that I just kept, the universe is telling me I got to do this stuff, and I have a role in this generation, in this moment, to be here, to witness it. And you were asking about like the positive vibes. Is that, yes, me being a non-drug addict, did that help being in a band of people who struggled? Definitely. Me being an unjaded Canadian who had integrity, who was not going to fall prey to any of the seduction of, you gotta,
you hated Hollywood.
I just sort of, I hated.
Yeah, you're not a Hollywood person.
Hollywood.
I can tell. I can tell by the hat. That's not a Hollywood hat. Come on, dude.
I'm European.
Yeah.
So it was, that was tough. But I think Courtney, I ended up unearthing a lot of quotes of hers while I was in the band for researching my memoir of like, what was said publicly. And there was Courtney did say in that early kind of, that she wouldn't have continued the band if she hadn't found me. I hadn't remembered that because there was so much. That probably terrified me when I read it in Rolling Stone in '95. I'm like, oh, no. Because I was pretty non-committal in terms of what am I actually going to do here and what's going to happen? Like, are people going to die? More people? So I was pretty half in. And her immediate connecting with me of I need you, and her putting me up as the virgin to her whore and the good girl, the bad girl. And I was like, whatever they called a wingman's.
The yin and the yang almost.
Yin and yang, but also like the sign that person, a comedian needs your
straight man.
So she would be like, fuck you, Melissa. I'm like, no, thank you. It was just like, I instantly had a role to play that was much. And actually, when I was talking to Michael Stipe yesterday, he brought it up. He's like, you gave Courtney that pillar she needed. Without you, she was sort of flailing alone. And he told me about the moment when they became huge at REM that he turned to Mike Mills and said, I'm going to need you to step it up. I actually need help. I need a supporting. And that's when Mike Mills grew out his hair, got the nudie suits, and became like the flashy bass player. And I guess, band lead wild people, even if they are the dominant wild people, do need support.
Oh, for sure.
And I took my role very seriously, both on stage and off stage. And I also, I never kissed her ass. I never lied to her. I never pretended shit was cool when it wasn't. And even when I left the band, which she was very upset about, she respected me for it. That's why we're friends now. That's why 25 years later, we don't have a bad word to say about each other, because I did what I had to do. She did what she had to do. And we made a great team for a while.
Yeah. And also, like we said, it's like you, it's not like you left, yes, it was going maybe in a direction you just didn't want to keep pursuing, but it's like you could look back and be like, everybody's cool. We're not in a bad place. We're not arguing. We're not falling apart. I just want to move on.
Yeah. And I left at our peak.
Yeah,
but she had, the main thing is she would not commit to the managers because she was waiting on a film schedule, and we could have been touring for another year, which I would have done because I love music, but she was committed to Hollywood at that moment. I was like, I'm not going to wait one more month to find out if you're going to make a movie with so-and-so. You're not taking it seriously. I was a little upset that she wasn't. We had set out to be one of the biggest female rock bands, and we did it. And,
you did.
And she was busy with a newer goal. And, I don't mean to say that with disrespect for her, but I am a musician. I was there to make music. And the moment she, got a little less interested, she did not have my commitment anymore. I was not going to stand by waiting.
What was do you have like a swan song moment? Like this is the show, this is the moment with the band that you were like.
Yes. It was in the last summer because I left them at the end of our Canadian tour in Vancouver, but right before going on tour across Canada, headlining my homeland, the best we'd ever been, to the biggest crowds we'd ever been.
Summer.
Oh,
thank God. Okay.
Summer. It was an outdoor festival. It was like the Lollapalooza of Canada.
Oshwa, whatever.
That's a Montreal one. It was called the Edge Fest, and it went from East Coast to West Coast. That was the last tour I ever did, and it was halfway through my Canadian tour where I realized I'm done. I've accomplished this. This is incredible. She's not committing to the next leg of the tour. But it was Glastonbury. Right before that, in the early summer of 99, we had like co-top billing, REM and us, Glastonbury, which is, I'm sure you know, the biggest music
of
festival.
course.
Quite literally took a helicopter, me, Courtney, Michael Stipe, and a couple of our entourage, took a helicopter from London to Glastonbury, flew over Stonehenge, kind of made like a prayer over Stonehenge, landed our helicopter, played the biggest, best show Courtney and I have ever played. And I remember thinking, wow, who would have known that like this like falling apart garage act 5 years ago could command this level of pop and this size of audience sonically and really deliver.
Mm-hmm.
That was the peak. And I think it's filmed somewhere. I hear people refer to that show. I mean, we were just so good and so tight. Because during Live Through This, we were not tight. We were not great music. I mean, it was like crazy. It was like she would talk for 20 minutes about like Eddie Vedder or something while me and the drummer would like play joke shit. So, that was a different time. So the swan song I'd say is, Glastonbury. I'm just sad that Patty, our drummer, wasn't there for that peak of us. But we had a great girl, Sam Maloney, who took her place. And we were 3 girls on a huge stage, and we were the only girls at that level of billing. And that's what mattered to me, is that we had climbed the ranks, and we were where I had committed when I joined Courtney hesitantly. I understood that the sole connection was we are going to put females into a male-dominated landscape. That's what I'm here to do. And that's...
You're like the Go-Go's of the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, we continued that tradition.
And all of the Go-Go's fit into Courtney of just how wild they were.
Yes.
And like you were, I guess you were the Jane? I don't know.
I don't know
it's just,
who I was.
Was
It's a
Jane
good question.
partying? I don't know. I feel like it's like the more I found out about, because she let it, like, I mean, it's aside from obviously what happened with Kurt, it was just, dealing and seeing her, like you said, it was just that like Live Through This is just... It's grunge.
Tornado.
It's a tornado.
Mania.
And then that record that y'all came out, it was like, oh my, because I had never looked at her like, oh my, she's hot. Like, holy shit. But also, then I was like, who's this redhead killing it with the vocals?
Yep.
Oh, and I had a crush on my this girl in my friend's band, Lauren Rostek. She played bass, so I've always had a thing for the chicks playing bass.
I guess there was a lot of us. I hope there's more.
Friends with Tol Wilkenfeld. Do you know her?
No.
Tol Wilkenfeld. She played with Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
She's like a prodigy.
Yeah,
got discovered at 16.
There's such a cool group of women. There's actually a cool bass player documentary coming out in the UK. Will come out here later, called Basslines. But I just like co-authored an hour of it of like life of bass through my lens and my history. But I mean, I am a bass player for sure. Like I love the bass.
I mean, Rolling Stone ranked you as one of the 100 greatest bass players of all time.
Oh, really?
You didn't see that?
No.
Oh, I'm positive. I know that for a fact. You didn't see this?
No, but there's also,
you don't look at
bass
lists.
players. I don't look at lists. The bass players are underrated in general, as we know. And then, and then I don't want to spend time on it because I want to get more to Pavement. But, I went solo after leaving the Pumpkins.
Yes.
And that was a big, weird move, too, for the bass player to just go solo and go into center stage, singer, songwriter, performer, and I had a very small group of like I'd always say on five fingers we got Lemmy from Motorhead, Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, Geddy Lee from Rush. There was
Geddy rules.
Oh my God, there was just so few. You want my love?
Like I want love.
Yeah, there was just so few of us, and I'm forgetting something important. There was Typo Negative, Peter Steele, who I worship, and so I just I was like, I like being the odd woman out, where I'm the bass player making my own records, and I went and made a couple of records that I loved, and that's when I got to shine just as my own sonic self. I didn't have to answer to anybody. I just wrote the songs. I'd invite all my favorite drummers and guitar players to add to it. I did a bunch with the Queens of the Stone Age guys who were some of my favorites at the time. I mean, still to this day, actually, Josh is one of my favorite of all of those guys. He's so talented.
This new tour, I just went to see them because I did a bunch of shows with them in Europe, and then I
know he's doing the crooning thing. The guy is...
But it's the same thing, like, to bring it back to Pavement, it's like once you strip away the guitars and you add a symphony orchestra, you're like, oh my God, like these are some of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And dark and then he wrote this new song that is so like Baroque and it's very croony, but it's literally it's the most honest thing he's probably ever written about his life, his marriage, his kids, being a dad, and it was such a great show.
Him doing Bowie is also when you see what a talented singer he is, but he's insane. Wait, is Queen's not on this 100 list? Can I come back for that? What?
No, this is an older list. It's a 2012 list. Maybe I would say.
Oh, because Songs for the Deaf.
Songs for the Deaf probably would.
They should have been on
it. If it's one, here's the deal: is this list is. It's not the best.
Okay.
It's not the best.
Why do you do it, actually?
Because much like, when you were talking about experiencing, I went through like a full like existential crisis, and I was like, I want to be moved. I want to feel something every day. And a buddy of mine that had passed away, we used to talk about this list, and I was like, I'm going to listen
to the records.
I'm going to listen to an album a day because I'm going to listen to all this music that I had never heard, because I was so stuck in the music of like the 90s and like, of course, like the Beatles and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and all that shit. But it was a way for me to expand
your horizons.
Exactly.
Yes,
and be moved.
And I'm only doing that through my 13-year-old daughter. So now I'm like expanding into the Billie Eilishes of the world.
Are you giving her Pavement? Are you giving her?
She does not want. I mean, my 90s flag is so huge behind me. And I think as this memoir comes out and as she starts kind of touring with me on book tours or my photo exhibits, she's just going to have to get into, to me, no. She doesn't like my vintage 90s. She's rebelling in the world of like
but 90s is coming back right now.
It's coming back, and she will surely find it. But I think I'm too much. Like I'm too much of, I'm her mother. Not
but you're cool.
I am.
You are cool. No, you're not like the dorky mom that's like, no, I swear I was in this band and we played Glastonbury. I swear to God.
Oh, yeah.
I was the voice of a generation. Like you're not like doing that.
She's gonna find it herself one day.
And she's gonna like, I'm telling you, when she gets into her 20s, I fought jazz for years because my dad loved jazz, and then when I was like 21, I was just like so sick of like all the tapes I had and the CD book that I had in my car, and then I was just put on a radio station and I fell in love with it. So it's just it comes to you when it needs to come to you. And at least they have like regardless if we already talked about at the beginning, if it's good or bad, the fact that you can just go, I want to listen to Pavement, boom, and it's right there.
No, yeah, exactly. The investigative abilities that young people now have. But, I also am a big believer in you got to like work hard to get things. So like my saving up money and then having to go to the record store and talk to the intimidating guy behind the counter, all of that was part of.
Yeah, but you were cool, dude. Dude, you were adorable. Like you're acting
adorable.
like you're this like shy chick. You were.
I was.
You're red hair. You're cool. You're probably had a French Canadian accent at the time too.
I was just shy, but
Do you have a little bit of the French Canadian attitude?
Oh, I definitely have the bohemian attitude. But my mother is American and my father was English-speaking child of Swiss immigrants. So I'm an English Montrealer, but I went to French school and I was friends with like the few English kids, which is a funny thing. Is that there was like a language separation, especially in the 70s and 80s. But I'm a serious English. But I
always find it odd that they would do Just for Laughs in Montreal. I was like, why are we? Can we just do it in like Dallas or just something? Please, God, I don't have to.
No, Quebec has particular culture that reigns hard. Comedy. Remember how even like, and I'm not going to connect France and Quebec because they're very distinct cultures. But you know how like Jerry Lewis was big in France. Mm-hmm. They're very into comedy. And so Quebec people are funny. And they also are super into like metal and fantasy, like Renaissance fair vibes.
Oh, I know. When you go out into the public,
so
there's the guy like on the ball, like, have you seen my rainbow? And you're like, all right.
So it's just, of course, I think you're lucky that you got to go to
I love it.
Montreal because it's just so weird. It's like going to another country, a minute away from America.
No, I have a blast. It's summer camp. I always just found it odd. I remember biggest show of my life, new faces in front of all the industry, and then 100 people that speak English but not great, but they love comedy.
They love comedy.
They love comedy, and I'm just like, all right. But it's always, I love it. I mean, I love Canada in general.
Yeah.
But there is something very beautiful about this little nook.
Oh, it's so nook. It's so unique. And then it's also got the Jazz Fest, which is amazing in the summer, and then also the Grand Prix. So it's got, those are the three big takeover festivals: comedy, jazz, and speed. And Euro speed vibe is very
actual
big.
Speed. Meth is a horrible problem. And yeah, no kidding. I have no idea if that's true. All right.
Partying.
Let's talk about some of the songs.
Okay.
Because I feel I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I want to get through these because you took some notes.
Yeah, I can.
This book's gonna rule, dude. I'm really excited for you.
Good.
I mean, I've got it on my computer,
and
I skimmed through certain parts of it just so I could get some certain questions. Yeah. And then I found that interview, and I was like, all right, I can do this. I can feed her. I can cook breakfast.
Yes, you don't need to have much research. I had to do my own research. So one of the things I noticed about Slanted and Enchanted, other than, I haven't listened to it lately, but I've totally listened to it when it was out, and I would DJ it, and then I toured to them, and that's why. The top thing is it just reminds me of that moment. It's the soundtrack of every indie person in the 90s. But what I was surprised about, it starts with Summer Babe, is that the whole album starts with like hit after hit. And then it kind of gets funny in the sort of there was a couple of like skip through tracks for me towards I was like, oh, because those are the ones that I was so used to hearing it live and they only played, they're kind of more catchy. So Summer Babe is just like classic Pavement. Incredible. Every one of them has the armchair philosopher dude mixed with the broken jangly guitars, and the spirit, which we didn't actually talk about, is beyond Steve Malcolmus, is the band of like guys who are just like, maybe not the best drummer, pretty good bass player, but like it's not about them being the best. It's that they are like loving being wrapped around this semi-ridiculous way of making pop music that is deconstructed, but not that heavy and not that good. But it's just, the band fuses into this bizarre style unto itself, even if they're not great players or singers. That's what's,
How do you feel about this being, in a sense, the world's introduction to them? This as their opening song to their first record.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. I think for me on Crooked Rain that came after, there's that one that had out on tour with the Smashing Pumpkins. They have no function. That song that I guess he changed, being politically correct 25 years later. But that song, called The Range Life.
Oh, Range Life.
I want to settle down. To me, that's the intro. That's like the the most inviting Pavement song. And when I think about them, I think of that as their hit. Also, they make such a great commentary on like Stone Temple Pilots and Smashing Pumpkins, and them really identifying themselves as not those dudes.
Was there beef? Was there beef
It's mainly
between
that,
the
of
bands?
course,
I feel
well-
like, and not putting, like, not dissing Billy at all. But now that he's gotten older with the podcasting, you know, it's just. I always feel like there was. I mean, I know there was manufactured beef with Nirvana and Pearl Jam, but did most of those bands, does everybody just get along when you guys were playing these festivals? I mean, obviously, because that's something, dude. Being on tour, being on a festival is so much fun.
Yeah.
You know,
I had no beef with nobody. I was the peacekeeping. I was
the
like
sweet
the
French
bass player
Canadian
taking
girl. Like, you're
pictures
taking
with everybody.
pictures.
I got along with everybody, but you know, Courtney was not getting along with everybody. Had beef everywhere. Billy had a bit of he was a bit of a polarizing character, I'd say. There was, you know, the definitely the reputation of like, oh, he's such a nice lead singer, hence the Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters, you know, rep of like, so rare that the singer with the big ego is also nice. You know, so I'd say that, sure, there was egos, but it really came down to who you are as a person, no matter whether you're the drummer or the singer. If you're an easygoing person like I am, who can connect with anybody, who you get along. But if you're like a pretty extremo person like those two, they're going to have problems.
So maybe not beef isn't the right word. Was there like healthy competition?
That's actually what Courtney and Billy have, is healthy competition. A lot of other people, especially in that moment on that tour, Lollapalooza, Sonic Youth, Pavement, it was a very anti-success. They don't
seem like they care. Like, and that's not a bad thing. Is that
that
Sonic Youth, Pavement does not give a shit.
No, there was no competition. There was no one trying to be. That was like an old mentality, you know, like that. But the mentality that I was and most of the bands were is, yeah, and it wasn't even like the all tides raise all ships, because nobody wanted to be raised. Everybody was staying down because they wanted to keep it real and intimate. So, you know, that's what Pavement did, and
they had to, even though they're like trying to keep, nah, man, we're just trying to do our thing. It's like, but hold on, let me get in my Ferrari. Like, you can't deny.
They didn't have Ferraris.
Metallica wanted to be Metallica. They just wanted to make rock and roll. But then, of course, you know what I'm saying? It's like people start buying records.
We had the Metallica managers, Q Prime, who were Def Leppard managers. They wanted to be big.
Oh, for sure. They wanted to make Thriller. I mean, Def Leppard got Mutt Lange. They made, which, I mean, listen, overproduced, great, fun record, of course. Is it the rock and roll Shania Twain album that came out a few years later? Of course. I mean, but it wasn't hair metal, which got so big
back to the alternative the 80s.
The reaction, and then even then, I always say this on the podcast, the reaction to when nu metal and all that shit got so big. You get the New York scene with Interpol, you get the Strokes. So it's always been like that. But that was the thing. I get you what I was saying about, even though, because it did seem like Kurt didn't want the success. He didn't want to be on Time Magazine. He just wanted to make music. And maybe it's probably one of the reasons that he ended, you know, the way that it ended.
Yes,
for sure. But even Pearl Jam, who's still an arena band, it seems like they still are just about the music. And of course it grows out and you have these big fans, but it's like, you know, you have to know that when you're making a brilliant record, there's going to be money. Thrown at you.
I mean, like in REM, back to that, that's a good example of like how you can be and U2, big bands who obviously are doing it for the music and who are playing the game enough while being respectful to the integrity of themselves and others, you know, and not tortured. Some people are just tortured. Tortured people are tortured. They know, and tortured like
You never met Kurt, huh? You never. I mean, I'm assuming
no,
you did.
I saw them play in tiny clubs, and we were like in the same backstage areas and stuff pre me being in the band when I was the ticket girl. Yeah, but no, I never. I mean, I was in the same room a few times.
That's so crazy. And then you think that's like, to bring it back to Pavement, which is like, even when Crooked Rain came out, it's like, this is a much better produced record than the first album, and it still keeps the same vibe. And I mean, it's a few years later. It's like, why aren't why did they never get bigger? Like, why is it?
Pavement, you're talking about?
Yeah, just trying to bring
I
it.
feel like they're kind of as big as you could have been without signing to a major label, without ever having a hit song on the radio. I guess they had videos on MTV, but I actually don't know that.
Cut Your Hair was pretty big. Range Life was pretty big. Gold Sounds.
Yeah. So by that moment, because that's the same album, correct?
This is
Cut
all
Your
off
Hair.
Crooked Rain, Crooked
Yeah,
Rain.
exactly. So if we are in 1992 with Slanted and Enchanted, this is the real introduction to who they are, style-wise, lyrically, production-wise. The song, I don't even understand. No
pull it back
Life
up.
Singed Her? Is that what the name of that? It's track
Oh,
number
yeah.
3?
I thought it was New Life Signer.
Signer.
on,
I
let me
must
pull up
have
my
like written it down wrong. I'm just like looking at my notes.
No,
But
you're killing it, dude.
track 3.
And by the way, if you want to listen to this, Shan, you got the record just in case. Do you have it without the commercials?
Yeah.
Did you sign into your account?
That's okay. It's more that
You want the commercial in? They're not
oh,
paying
no,
us.
I don't.
No,
want
there's
We don't want the commercial in here. Track 3 is No Life Signer, which I'm just going to mention Trigger Cut Wounded Kite because that was the song that I heard when I started listening to this record that I was like, oh, this is pure pop. This is like literally as good as this is like that thing you do just with these guitars and it was really what made me realize like how talented he is and how the band is as a writer.
Which song was that?
That was the second track, Trigger Cut Wounded Kite.
Okay.
Do we have it in the headphones?
Yeah, this is the third track.
Oh yeah.
But just wait for it.
This is which track is
What track is this?
3.
This is track 3.
Exactly.
Oh, this is her song.
So this is the one that I like.
But even if get rid of the guitars and just this is the Hollies.
Oh, for sure. And they do la la la's, ooh loo 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 loo, ooh wah 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 wah. No, they're like 50s pop kids. It's the cutest about them.
These garbling words and like
Yeah, and they also had that overdriven scream thing that was like a very like also kind of like almost like locomotion. So like that, yeah, they have like a romantic kind of Beach Boys, Good Boys with button-down shirt vibes, which is I think also what makes Pavement so cool is that they're not dangerous to anybody. You know, this is not like predators in
They were
any
cool
way.
guys, huh?
They're like, well, I mean, I just mean just like look at what
Yeah,
they're
no,
wearing. They're just
I
like dressed
know,
like
of
your
course.
dad. They're just like such like non-threatening humans. And as people in terms of on tour, yeah, they were just nice guys that didn't take themselves too seriously. You know, I was at all catering tent and the after parties with them, and they're just like fun. The guy, like one of them was the bartender at Great Jones all through the bass player, Mark Eibold. He was at Great Jones, that like Southern restaurant, and throughout all of Pavement, he was the bartender.
He's
I
still
mean, they're just
he
the
didn't
cool
wanna-
bartenders. They're just the nice guys and not threatening and just sweet. And I remember the funniest story that's in our Lollapalooza tour diary and Spin magazine is that Courtney, who is very smart, she chose to be competitive with Steve Malkmus on the whole tour around the New York Times crossword, and that every day they would compete of who could get it done. And Steve Malkmus was probably the only person on tour as smart as Courtney as far as just like academic brain natural. I mean, I'm assuming Malkmus did like advanced university education. He's very well read, whatever he is.
Let's find out where he went
So
to
that was
school.
the competitive nature on that tour with Pavement and Hole was who could do the New York Times crossword puzzle. Faster.
Steven was the
I think he had more patience. I feel like Courtney just, didn't, she was doing 17 other things, including talking onto the internet. She was talking on blogs back then or whatever there are, chat rooms. I have this,
like AOL.
yeah, she was like
God,
having
Prodigy.
a chat thing, daily thing. I didn't even know what she was doing with this like toaster looking thing in the production office. She would like be on this screen. I had never even been on the internet at that moment.
Then even just looking, it doesn't say where he went to school.
Maybe he
but
didn't.
But it says but he's born in Santa Monica, and then his family moves to Stockton, California, which is not
Yeah, it's sort of Southern
the
California.
best area. That's like where
Okay.
Nate Diaz is from, if I'm not mistaken. It's like a fighting, shitty California town, and then that actually, for him to then probably get into literature and probably wanting to read, and I'm seeing this now. It's like he did go to University of Virginia, majored in history, was a disc jockey.
Okay.
Who later front a band called the Silver Jews. Wait,
Yeah,
is this?
that's
this is
still
real.
happening. That's
okay.
real. Yeah, that is real.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah.
Silver Jews. But yeah, so I think when there's nothing to do, you know, you were very lucky because you were in Montreal, which is one of the major cities in Canada. But certain people, like, you either get, here's the thing, because I'm pretty sure, like, Stockton's pretty close to where Corn's from. So it can go one of either ways. You can go the intellectual, or you could go which is great lyrics, by the way.
But also like bro culture versus cool nerd culture. These guys are cool nerds. Very cool. And they make nerd cool. And that's...
let's bring it back.
I also love
what else you
the
got?
next song, In the Mouth of the Desert. It has that kind of la 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 la. That's when they kind of tap into the kind of like 60s doo-woppy vibe.
I love the lyric too. I've been crowned the king of it.
Exactly.
And
that's
it is
what
all
I
we
put.
have. Yeah.
Exactly. And I could wait to hear. I could wait to hear the words. They're diamond sharp today. Yeah, very catchy song, and also that very cool tripped out lyrics.
It's a deeper cut for sure on the record.
I think it might be one of my favorites. Distorted bass too. I like.
Just 3 chords, the whole song.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like a guy like this sounding so lackadaisical, and he's been crowned the king of something. Like what? Like, yeah, I love that song. I was actually very surprised when listening to the record again how much I liked this track, Conduit for Sale.
Conduit for Sale.
It's like funny jangle jangle, and it's like when you really highlight all the people who pretend either couldn't tune or play their guitars, but kind of like pretend they can't play and tune their guitars. So it's like punk. Yeah.
I mean, this reminds me of like the Minutemen.
Yeah, so this has a bit of punk, and it's like kind of a desperate, like I'm punky, I'm desperation. Literally, he's saying, I'm trying. So it's got more of a vulnerable, weird, visceral thing about it that I like.
What's so funny is like usually I would be asking the questions about your career from every song, but we've gone through so much your career, and I was like, because I already know what the question would have been, but I was like, nah, she already answered it.
Which is can I play my instrument?
No, it's not. No, it's the sale. The word sale is the word you have to latch on, because I don't know conduit. I know conduit. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
But you've already kind of. You've mentioned, you basically talked about it, where it's like getting a 5-year contract, where it's like, do you want to keep selling, not selling out, but would you want to keep going? And you were like, nah, fuck that. And
well, actually, that's funny you're saying this, because when we get towards the end, the song that I want to recite the lyrics like it's a poem is Fame Thrower. So instead of flamethrower, it's Fame Thrower, and I'm going to read that at the end of this session, which is definitely his commentary on the sellout thing. Yes. So we got Conduit for Sale. Zurich is Stained, completely forgotten track. Like I listened to it, there was nothing about it that even had like remained in my brain since the 90s. So I kind of must have skipped it then, and I kind of skipped it this time.
It's interesting that he picked that place. I mean, just to have that in the title. I'm assuming, because I don't even know, if like Pavement, I'm assuming they did tour, but it's like, do you think they played Zurich?
At that
Are they
time,
a Zurich band? Are they big in Zurich?
Probably not by 92. Maybe they had been to Europe once. I don't know. I mean, it feels like it might have been more like an international political thing.
It could also just be a funny way to say it. Zurich just sounds funny, like the way I say. I always, Dusseldorf is always just a funny country I always go back to.
One, yes.
I just went to Zurich, and let me tell you something. It rules.
Yeah.
So,
I am Swiss citizen. My family's Swiss. Auf der Maur is Swiss German, and my family is 1,000 years old Switzerland that built the wall that stood up to the Austro-Hungarian Empire to make Switzerland. And my daughter has her Swiss passport, and her daughter will have, because it's all like genetically coded there of who gets the passports. It's very intense.
Wow.
Yes, my family is very Swiss. I am 50%, 100% pure blood Swiss, and I brought my daughter last summer on a pilgrimage of Swiss Germany, Swiss German. That territory. It's very different in the French and Italian, but that Zurich area, which is where my family's from, they're from the Alps right behind Zurich, which is where the geographical center of Switzerland began. But anyway, yes, I'm very, very
way
Swiss.
Cooler than my family, dude. Building shit. Chelsea's little wrists. Short.
Wild is zany. Don't remember it, but I like it now, is what I said.
It's like a mid-album palate cleanser. Is what
the
I
mid-album kind of lulls for me, but that's a cute one. Loretta's Scars, out of tune guitars, effortless, afraid to commit, yet so committed to their thing.
But I thought it was probably out of this record, it's probably the most emotional song on here. I think it has the most depth.
Because it actually had some, well, also like a person at the center of it, perhaps.
Yeah, it felt like it was. It just, it's not just like capable of like this, like the ironic hooks. It's got like, it almost was like kind of like tugging on your heartstrings. I wouldn't say it's like forcing you to feel something, but the lyric, like, how can I make my body shed for you? I mean, that's a really glimpse of like a vulnerable, you wouldn't expect that from, if you're just taking it at the surface level of the guitar, like we said, of the music and the attitude and the singing, it's like you forget that it's like, no, he's really saying some, raw emotion in that.
That's good. I'm glad you pulled that out of that, because I actually was saying that the next one was the closest thing to a ballad. Here, I was dressed for success, and it's like sweet as pie, and that's when like there's a feeling of like, I won't hurt you. I'm here. I'm not going to kiss ass, and I won't try too hard to win, but I'm here. Like, there was something really sweet about that song that I thought that was sort of like vulnerable in a different way of just like, I'm a good guy.
Not to stop for a second, but I want to talk about your solo stuff. Was that like we were talking about the depth and like, when you started making the first solo record, and then you've done 3, or you've done only did 2. Okay. Yeah. Like what was lacking in Whole, and of course, like you were just touring with Smashing Pumpkins, right? Yeah. But it's like what was lacking there that you needed? Like, were all those songs just you've been writing for years, and it was like, I gotta get these out?
Most of them had been 4-track demos while I was living in LA in Whole. Actually, when Billy came in to do a bit of Celebrity Skin with us, he co-wrote 2 of the hits on that album. He, as my mentor who had found me, was like, Melissa, do you have any songs? And I brought in my demos, actually 2 whole. A lot of them all ended up on my solo records. But I had just been writing. Courtney often accuses me of like having withheld my talent when I was in that band, which is not true. It's more that like she is the force and she needed to lead it. Me bringing my songs, like there was a song that Billy was like, put Melissa's song on the record, and we'd track the whole thing, and it came down to who's going to sing my part, me or her, and it didn't make the record, obviously, but that's fine. I didn't need to have my song on the record. Courtney's the lead singer.
Yeah.
So I was writing already, and then by the time I left the Pumpkins had refueled me with what I really needed, which was be a heavy musician, like a really heavy guitar, heavy drums. Hence all my collaborators on my solo record. It's the Queens of the Stone Age guys. It's the Helmet guy.
I love Helmet
it's
so
like
much.
The Rocket from the Crypt drummer. It's like a million cool. It's just the heaviest guys I know. I mean, it's like those are my people sonically. So Hole had all the female power moves and all the brilliant lyrics. I mean, Courtney's like so much smarter, hence the New York Times crossword. She has something that I have zero of. I'm not a lyricist. I happen to have written a book, and my parents were both literary genius journalists, but I am not a lyricist. Like, my expertise, I'm like a diary writer. I like writing and talking to you, but I'm not. So what I was most missing in Whole was being a heavy musician. There's a song on Celebrity Skin called Use Once and Destroy, which Courtney would call Melissa's song. That was the closest thing to what I am as a bass player. So by the time I got to make my record, which I funded myself, I produced with Chris Goss from the Queens, and I just like made my dream album, got all my favorite guitar players, got all my favorite drummers, and then I sold it to Capitol Records as a finished record. So like I had made an integrity, self-financed, self-produced, not one person speak to me. And so that's how I made both my records, actually.
You really don't have an ego, man. I mean, I know we all have egos, but it's like you're very like, it's even like I said, just being able to just give the credit. Courtney's that, and that's this, but me, it's like I just got to do this thing and be okay with that.
I follow like what is burning inside of me, what I have to offer, and I don't look at lists. I don't judge what I have to offer on a list of success. I judge when I have given it to outside. When I've taken it out of me and put it out there, I have succeeded. No matter whoever likes it.
You're not making it for success. You're making it because you have to make it.
Exactly. I guess so. And that was the same with the book for sure. And then, so then I got to like, have like a big Capitol. That was 2004. It was still kind of the 90s when I put out that first record. And then For me, it was my second record, Out of Our Minds, which Roadrunner put out because Capitol, the guy who signed me, Andy Slater, who was the one who said after he saw me play, he heard my early versions of my record and saw me play a little showcase show in LA. And his line was, "Who knew the bass player had something to say? Signer." So Andy Slater, who had discovered Fiona Apple, and he was like a big, great A&R, like an actual great record. He now manages exclusively Cat Power, but he had like produced Fiona Apple. He had like done Macy Gray. He was a real visionary guy, and that's when those guys started being ousted from these labels and replaced by actual finance people.
Yeah.
So when he left Capitol, I lost my contract, but I had already recorded most of my second record. So I got to finish it, sell it to Roadrunner, and finally be on a cool metal label, which I was really excited about.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, isn't Roadrunner like fucking like...
No, it's Hypo Negative. It's like Rob Zombie.
Sepultura.
It's the best. It's yeah. So I got to be on a metal record, and for me, my second record, Out of Our Minds, which I also got to play on all these metal festivals, not to do with Roadrunner, but it was a heavier record. My first one sounded a little still more in the 90s pop rock, and then I got to really write as a bass player, like with loud volume. I'm really proud of my second record. And I am recording something to put out next year that's more of a total like decadent indulgence of covers of my favorite electronic industrial music on an analog bass. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. So I'm making music just to have fun, not because, and I hope people who like the same shit I like it. But I'm back in the studio because I retired, and now I'm like, I also wrote the book so I could fall back in love with music, and oh my God, I love it more than anything.
So you see a third act coming up then?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the record and the memoir and the photography is my comeback as a photographer, as a writer. So introducing myself as a new thing, which I think naturally, many people said, "You're a better photographer than a bass player anyway. You should have just done that." But I
wanted to ask this. Yeah. So if you don't meet your husband's Tom?
Tony.
Tony.
Yeah.
He's Tony. If you don't meet Tony, and you don't have the kid, where do you think? Do you think you would still been in bands and just kind of?
I had already been like saying no. That's a great question. I mean, I was playing. My last show for my last record, I was 39, pregnant, and the only girl on a heavy metal festival in Toronto stage with like Mastodon, who are one of my favorites, Mastodon, Motorhead. Like it was the most ridiculous bill, and I was pregnant and only girl on the bill. And I was kind of at the peak for me. I was like as good as it was going to get. I guess I would have made another record, but no, I think that like when I was done with Hole in the Pumpkins and my 90s thing, I just needed to change it up. And now I get to return to music starving for music. It was like, oh my God, not playing my bass for that long has been torturous for me.
You really haven't picked it up.
I don't play I'm an all or nothing. I just like do it 1,000% or not.
Do you still have basses?
Oh my God, I have so many basses. It's ridiculous. I have a whole storage space.
And your daughter never goes, "Mom, when did you ever play these things?"
Yeah, she does. Actually, when I started writing my memoir, before I even started, she said out of nowhere, "Wait, why don't you play music anymore? You'd be so much cooler and you'd have more fun." Because I had really become like, I'm going to like serve my daughters, serve indie rock. I'm going to go like be an art factory producer. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to have fun in 2026.
I hope so. I do. You're so cool. All right. Let's do a few more songs and we'll get you out of here.
Two States is kind of weird. It's like this weird lo-fi thing where I guess it's his Americana commentary because all he says about two states is 40 million daggers, 40 million daggers. We want two states. There's no culture. There's no spies. So it's some American history thing he's talking about there.
I wrote short, punchy, punkish vibe, still melodic.
Yep. Always melodic. Okay, I think I'm going to end with Fame Thrower so I can read it like a cool poem. And then just to tell you the last few songs, Jackal's False Grave, The Lonesome Era. I don't know. It's just like he ends the album kind of with, I've got one holy life to give. I've got one holy life to live. So that's it.
I think our singer kind of feels like exhausted sounding. It's almost like it's like if the session is kind of like winding down, and so are us as the listener. Now it's not bad, You mentioned something. I don't know if you were about to say something, but it's the same thing I always talk about, where it's like it's just certain records. It's if you like weird example, but Use Your Illusion. Both records are too much. If they would have taken the best shit off of both of those records and put it in one album, you'd be like, this is amazing. Is it Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction? No, but it's a good record. And it's like, and I think you get to a place at 14 songs where I'm not tired because it's only 39 minutes.
Oh, that is short.
It's pretty short for 14 songs.
Yeah.
Well, they're not writing like
It's true. They are very little ditties.
But if we could have cut up, I'm going to ask this question later. If it's a no skip record, I think there are a few skips on this. But yeah, so wrap it up with fame.
Okay, so I'm going to pretend I'm a poet.
Please,
I'm
you
into
trust
this.
me.
Okay.
You don't have to pretend anything, baby.
La 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 la. Fame thrower, pass out the gold, the diamond. Watch the last reward, all the things we had. Before you sold us out and took it all, head-born cries from zenith sluts, astral. Rights from dead end ruts. These kids are sick and wars. One of the nation's spies, one of our first recruits. Click with her leather thighs, one of our first recruits. How can you know in the distant lies? A grower, knee rode off, king fame thrower. Son of a groupie, red-worn sexton spent his cash convincing us that the desert was a starscape and sold our lives for a satellite so we could cry naked, naked fool. Foul! Naked foul!
Oh, fuck, you dropped it right at the end. That's what I would have done. I would have done the same thing, too.
Naked foul.
Naked fool's good, too, though. Either way.
I mean,
who knows?
And that, whoever he's talking about, like
what do you think he's saying
like
there?
talking about a snake salesman. It's about the sellout. There's something going on with the record industry, but also creepy people growing. Yeah, king fame thrower, son of a groupie, red-worn sexton spent his life cash convincing us that the desert was a starscape. I love that line.
Yeah.
The desert was a starscape and sold our lives for a satellite so we could cry. These lines. Naked foul. I mean, that is cool. That is true poetry.
I love that you said it could be about like the record company. It could be about, it's just being an artist and trying to make art and just like somebody come up and be like, you're going to be the biggest thing. And if you do this and you just make the record sound like that, it's going to be amazing and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
but it's not exactly what you want to do. I love that. Like makes the desert feel. What was it? Makes the desert feel like
it's
a starry
desert was trying. This creepy dude was trying to convince us that the desert was a starscape. It's so cool. And then the other one is the amazing line is head-born cries from zenith sluts, astral rights from dead end ruts. These kids are sick and wars. I mean, he's a poet. I mean, so this is like some beat poetry stuff that he must have written in his journal, and then he finds a way. Like, no one was really doing this. I wish they were doing more of this, actually, and that's, I think, what I like the most about Pavement. Is,
do you think anybody's carrying the torch of them right now?
There are some cool, I will say, that's a great question, because I have this friend, Elvis Perkins, who's, like, carrying this sort of, like, folk people, right? Like the way that Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
like
those are very Dylan-esque, maybe more like,
yes.
Not, I wouldn't say, because we've done so many Dylan records on this, and I'm finally starting to get them because we did it the wrong way. We started with like Time Out of Mind, and I was never a Dylan guy, and so now it's like we're finally starting to get into the records that you should listen to first before you go to the older ones. But you just hear some of his lyrics, and you're like, you can hear it in so many other.
Yeah.
I mean, just so many other people, especially, from doing this podcast. It's just like, you can hear his influence all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I could
this
definitely.
Is definitely.
And definitely from everything you've said about him and just being like a beat poet or
intellectual.
Yeah, of course he loved Dylan.
Yeah, of course. And then that's what I kind of like is that Pavement has like a play on a bit of a folk thing, and there's folk tradition all over I'm sure he likes Neil Young too, like I'm just like, these are things that are not my legacy, but I'm always kind of in awe of people who really hone into their lyrics, like Courtney. I mean, master lyricists are very valuable, and I am not one, but I really do admire that in people. Yeah.
This has been great. Let's do the final question to get you out of here.
Oh yeah, right.
You still have 45 interviews to do this week, probably.
We're just announcing the memoir tomorrow, so I will start my treadmill soon.
Are you prepared to answer a lot of the same questions?
Yeah,
over
I
and
just
over?
funny even saying it to you, answering some of your questions today. I'm like, oh,
Well,
wow.
I hope I didn't ask the ones that
No,
everybody's
I
gonna be
realized
asking.
that, but it's those formative. No, you didn't ask the wrong questions. It is this weird thing about the beer bottle and this like how the kind of like Cinderella lost slipper vibe of how my entry into the big 90s rock scene happened. It's so defining of my story of the fan that plucked out of nowhere. It's literally Cinderella overnight. Like
It really is. It really is.
yeah.
And also, but also, you know, there's the way that you wrote the book. I want to give us a big compliment from,
Thank
I was watching an interview from Tarantino, and he was talking about like biopics. He's like, I don't like biopics. I like when it's just about a thing, like a section of that person's life. Like even like the way they just did that Bruce movie about Nebraska. It's like you don't want to see.
And the Dylan movie that helped me
Sure.
like fall in love with Dylan
For sure,
Yeah.
but that's the thing is that you could have told the entire and even, but you were like you literally talked about this like 10 was it
10 years, just the decade that defined me, my generation, and then mainly I worked really hard to just bring the reader into the room. I don't do a lot of like hem and hawing and analyzing of nothing. I'm just like, this is what's on the table. This is what the person was wearing. This is what it smelled like. This is what I felt like. So I don't do a lot of, they call it in writing, show, don't tell. I'm not telling anybody anything. I'm just walking them into that room time capsule with me. But yeah, I loved writing that version of writing.
Well, I can't wait to hear from 2001 on to 2025.
I know, book number 2 will
gonna
happen
be like,
after I do
all right,
this.
This is what happened when I never got to the thing the interview, which is that your husband like shook your baby's hand while still in you. Is that fucking true?
Yes.
Good God. Dude.
Yes,
It's
home
like, yo,
birth.
what's up, baby?
Home birth. This is, when I joined a band of junkies, which was like a legendary known to be junkies. So my mother's friends were all very concerned. Is your daughter going to become a heroin addict because she's joining this band?
Sure.
And my mother said, oh, no. Melissa's too afraid of needles, which is true. And fast forward to I'm having a baby. And when I found out that a hospital gives you an IV, I decided to have a home birth. I was like, there's no way. So I had never had an IV before. I'm like, no way.
How do they give blood? Like, not you give blood. How do they test for, your liver enzymes and shit?
I mean, maybe getting blood taken, but having an IV stuck in your arm is my... Anyway, the point is I had a home birth, which is what you asked me about, and it was magic. And my daughter came out, popped out her hand and grabbed my husband, who, because it was a home birth, he was catching the child coming out of me in the bathtub. And she held hands with her eyes wide open because it was a 1-hour birth because she wasn't even tired. She was just like, boop, hi, grabbed his hand. He's like, shit. And we have it on film. She's holding my hand. She's holding my hand.
Hilarious.
Making eye contact with me.
Oh, dude.
It was so cute.
That's awesome. You're going to have a great time on this, and I'm really excited for the book to come out. I'm excited for the picture book.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time out to talk
Pleasure.
to me.
You're oiling my wheels, my return to talk wheels.
And I'll
Thank
say
you.
this too. I get nervous sometimes when I'm talking to people that like I respect, especially musicians that I love. And you could not have been sweeter and nicer. So I think you're going to do great on the tour. And I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
And please come back. We'll figure it out. I'll come up to upstate.
Yeah.
We've got another 131 records left, so we got more time.
Right. And then I will send you, maybe some of my favorites by now. There's some things, heavy things is what I like too.
We've got some heavy stuff coming on, dude.
Great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Hold on. I got to ask you these final questions.
These questions.
The final questions. Okay. What's your favorite song on this record?
Lyrically is Fame Thrower, and then I guess it is Summer Babe opening track. It makes me happy.
I love that. We already said, is this a skip record or is it no skip record? There are some skips. What do you think was your least favorite song on the album?
Oh, I took note of that. It was somewhere in that sort of
don't put away your notes yet.
The 3/4 mark. Yes, this was definitely, I've said, I don't remember this one from then. They must have never. Zurich is stained, and weirdly I'm Swiss. But I wrote in my notes, did not retain this. Must have skipped it back then, or they never played it live.
You're shitting on your own land. You're a self-hating Jew. We got so many of those. What can you fuck to this record?
I think college kids really drunk in like a parent's like living room with a bunch of other kids in there could maybe.
But this isn't something that you.
This
would
is
put
not deep
on
romance
now.
sensuality. This is really kind of like loose, light, messy.
And also, this is like we had when we were doing the Jeff Buckley record.
Oh my God.
Our guest said something. He was like, "It's even though the record you could, musically, fuck to it. It's just lyrically, you're gonna be paying attention to what he's saying. You know what I
But
mean?
it's
And you
distracting.
can't-
It's
some
not
people,
an atmosphere.
yeah,
right.
it's just there's the words. Even that poetry you said. It's like you're going to hear
You're literally
that.
going to
and
stop.
it'll
You're going to
take you
use your
out.
mind.
Exactly.
You know what
And you need to be present.
For someone who, probably not you, you're never going to have a baby. But one of my takeaway lessons when I had my home birth, don't use your mind. Don't talk. Don't listen. And having birth is very much like having sex. Of like, this thing is not going to help. Nothing.
Oh God.
Just be in your body. And yeah, I guess like this is a very heady band. This is like all about Steve's brain.
It's not made for fucking.
No.
I'll say that.
Definitely not.
All right. And how would you give like the elevator pitch to get someone to listen to this record?
Oh, it is the essence of the independent, intelligent, semi-romantic, funny 90s man. And if you want to like meet a cool type of guy, great to date, great to have dinner parties with, great to have a kid with probably.
Is this your husband? Is this your husband all in one?
He actually loved Pavement in college too. Yes,
Yeah, he's
it's
a
just
cool
like
guy.
it's a very particular, good. Like that's a terrible pitch, but it's like
No, that was perfect.
okay,
No,
good.
that was
But also,
perfect.
if you want to know an essence of a type of moment and a type of person and a movement of like really good men, which you know what, we could use some more of those.
Sure, I completely agree with you. I think this is this is 1992 and just that whole era about the attitude and the disillusionment and the questioning, like what's going on in life. And it really is like he's the Bob Dylan of the 90s.
And not pretentious, because there's a lot of pretentious stuff in the 90s, like a very showboaty, which I was even in
Sure.
its DIY indie vibe. It's inviting in that it's like you don't even really have to play your instrument. Like you can kind of feel like you're included in a thing that maybe you could even do. Like I think a lot of college kids should get into this and learn how to play guitars that don't sound perfect.
I agree.
That's
I
cool.
think whereas like Beck's Loser, like we mentioned
Exactly.
earlier, is like really like, because lyrically it's a lot of just rhyming things, but it's like obviously that chorus was like this anthem for everybody.
Exactly.
It would be that and then he eventually went on to make incredible
Unbelievably
music.
so talented.
And lyrically he's really fleshed out and written
Yeah.
so many beautiful, like well thought out things. I feel like this is kind of like the side piece that goes with that basically breaks down that I'm a loser baby chorus and just kind of breaks it into the full record. And
Yes.
yeah, man. Dude, this is awesome. I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Is
You
that
were
the last question?
That's the last question.
Cool.
Unless we ask any more, I could do another 3 hours.
No
We're
fucking,
already at 2
but
right
great
now.
guy to date somehow.
Promote away, please. Talk about the book
Oh,
one last time, and then we'll do it, and then we'll do it at the beginning as well.
Okay, so my memoir, Even the Good Girls Will Cry, a 90s rock memoir, is coming out on my birthday, March 17th, 2026. Announcing it here now. And I spent the last few years reflecting on the decade that defined me and my generation. And as a follow-up to that memoir, I'm also going to be putting out a book of my 90s photography because of my epic arsenal of archive from that time, all scanned, all ready to go, museum exhibit as well as book. So 2026.
It's going to be a big year for you, dude.
Keep an eye out for the woman, the mother coming out of retirement. I'm going to spread the love of pro-human, pro-analog, pro-art, pro-past as a futurist, where I believe we can have all that now, and we can all, and it's my duty to just get people jazzed and excited about what that old time, it's never going to happen again. The way that we lived in the 90s, in our 20s, and in our youth, and when we had those big dreams of bands, and when we weren't so corroded and corrupted by the social media liking fame thing, where you really just were whoever you were and your friends thought you were, and that was it. There was no like outside. It was so pure in our self value and very empowered time for women, for alternative freaks, for poets. And I really, my commitment to my 14-year-old daughter and all the girls and future generations, I just want to like go on book tours and talk to people in universities, radio shows, podcasts, just about what we lost, but what we can get back and what we can preserve is the number one thing. Preserve in that time and culture, and in music, of course. It's a love letter to music, most importantly. So I also am going on just to like serve my muse, which is music. So it's just, it's a big 2026 for me, and I'll be in every shape, from writing to photography to releasing this EP of covers of weird things.
And I guess the last question: do you ever see Hole doing a reunion?
Obviously, I've been asked that question so much, and I said no for well over a decade, maybe even 15 years.
Yeah, but this is the new
This is
you.
the new
This is the
me.
2026 version, dude.
And Courtney and I, like I said, she's made a super solo record, and we are talking about, I sang on a record. I'm supporting her on her record, and she's also putting out a memoir in the next year or so too. So I can see Courtney and I coming back as this sort of like 90s Wonder Twin thing.
Oh, dude, you'd be headlining Coachella. Like, it wouldn't just be like, you could do the club run if you want to do for like a warm up, but you're gonna get the festival offers.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
If I'm open to it now that I have done my work and I've done my healing and my stuff,
cool mom.
and be the cool mother.
How great would it have been if she would have put her arm out? It would have been rock fingers instead of just like, yo, hit me up, Dad. She's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, Courtney and I are in touch, and I'm excited for her comeback, and I'll be there. We'll be side by side in some way or other.
Good. And like I said, everything you've done, even from everything I've read, it's like you've done it with such grace. So it's not like there's bad blood, and that makes me happy because dude, you're a rock star. You're one of the coolest people I've had on this show. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, Shan.
Stop.
That was great.
That was fun. I like it. I like talking.